Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. The wedding was 7 days away. Everything was ready. The venue was booked. The invitations had gone out. My suit was hanging in the closet, and Judith's dress was being kept at her mother's house until the ceremony. We had spent almost a year planning it. I was sitting at the kitchen table on a Thursday night, going over the final payment schedule, when Judith walked in and dropped her purse on the counter. She didn't say hello. She poured herself a glass of wine and stood there for a few seconds without drinking it. I looked up. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Judith." She sighed and sat across from me. "There is something I need to tell you." I closed the folder. "Go ahead." She stared at the wine in her hand. "My ex is back in town." I waited. "What ex?" She gave me a look. "You know who?" I did. Graham. They had dated for almost 3 years before she met me. Judith rarely mentioned him, but I knew enough to understand that the relationship had ended badly. "When did he get back?" "Yesterday." "And?" She took a drink. "He reached out to me." I leaned back in my chair. "What did he want?" "To talk." "About what?" "I don't know yet." I stared at her. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "I want to meet him." For a moment, neither of us spoke. I looked at the woman sitting across from me, the woman I was supposed to marry in 7 days. "You're asking me if that's okay?" "I'm telling you what I need to do." "1 week before our wedding?" "Freddie, don't make this dramatic." I almost laughed. "You're asking to meet the man you used to love 1 week before marrying me, and I'm the one making it dramatic?" She put the glass down harder than necessary. "It's one dinner." "Then why didn't you tell me he contacted you yesterday?" "Because I knew you'd react like this." "Like what?" "Like you're threatened." I stood up. "I'm not threatened by Graham." I picked up the folder from the table. "I'm disappointed that you think meeting him is something you need to do before marrying me." She watched me carefully. "So?" I looked directly at her. "Okay." Her eyebrows lifted. "Okay? Go meet him." She seemed relieved. She didn't realize what that answer meant. I wasn't giving her permission. I was accepting her decision. And once she made it, I knew exactly what I was going to do next. Judith went upstairs around 11. I stayed in the kitchen. I didn't argue with her. I didn't ask what Graham looked like now or where they planned to meet. I didn't need those answers. I opened my laptop and pulled up the wedding spreadsheet. The venue was first. I called them at 8:05 the next morning. "I'm calling about the wedding scheduled for next Saturday under Freddie and Judith." The coordinator recognized my name immediately. "Is everything okay?" "No, the wedding is canceled." There was a pause. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." She explained the cancellation fee. I told her to process it. Then I called the photographer, then the caterer, then the band, then the florist. Every call felt the same. A few questions, a few awkward pauses. Then another part of the wedding disappeared. We were going to lose money. I didn't care. By 9:30, I had canceled the honeymoon suite and the rental car waiting at the airport. At 10, I called my brother Samuel. "The wedding is off." Silence. "What happened?" "Judith wants to meet her ex. He's back in town." "Seriously?" "Seriously." "Freddie, are you sure you want to do this?" "I already did it." He understood. "Do you want me to come over?" "No, I've got it." When Judith came downstairs, she was dressed for work. She stopped when she saw the wedding folder on the table. "Why is everything spread out?" "Because I canceled the wedding." She stared at me. "What?" "The wedding is canceled." Her face changed. "You canceled it?" "Yes." "Because I told you I wanted dinner with Graham?" "No, because you told your future husband that meeting your ex was important enough to put our wedding at risk." "That's not fair." I looked at her. "You said you needed to do it." "I never said I was choosing him." "You didn't have to." She crossed her arms. "So what? You're punishing me?" "No." "Then what is this?" "It's a decision." She shook her head. "You can't just throw away a year of planning because you're jealous." "I'm not throwing anything away." I closed the laptop. "I'm refusing to marry someone who needs to see if another man is still an option." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then her phone vibrated. She looked at the screen. I didn't need to ask who it was. She grabbed her purse. "I'm going to work." "Okay." She stopped at the door. "You really mean this?" "Yes." For the first time that morning, she looked afraid. I opened the door for her. "The wedding is over, Judith." She walked out without answering. I locked the door behind her. Then I called my attorney. My attorney, Daniel, had handled my business contracts for years. I called him because Judith and I had already combined several accounts and paid deposits from both sides. I need help separating everything, I told him. We spent the next hour going through the accounts. The apartment lease was in my name. The wedding expenses were mostly paid from my account. The joint checking account contained money we'd both deposited, so I told him I wanted everything divided fairly. I wasn't interested in taking Judith's money. I wanted a clean break. That afternoon, Judith came home early. She walked into the kitchen and found me sorting paperwork. "Are you seriously doing this already?" "Yes." She dropped her keys onto the counter. "I thought we could talk." "We are talking." "No, you're acting like this is final." "It is." She stared at me. "I haven't even met Graham yet." "Exactly. Then how can you know I'm making the wrong choice?" I put the paperwork down. "Because I don't need to know what happens after you meet him." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not going to stand here while my fiancée decides whether she wants another man." She shook her head. "You make it sound like I'm cheating." "I didn't say you were. You implied it. I said your priorities tell me enough." She stepped closer. "I love you." I looked at her. "Then why is meeting him necessary?" She didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, "Because I never got closure." I almost smiled. "Closure? Yes. You've had 3 years with me. I know. And you need one dinner with him to know whether you're ready to marry me?" She looked away. "That's not what I said." "It is exactly what you said." Her phone vibrated again. She checked it. This time, I saw the name. Graham. She quickly turned the screen away. "He's asking where to meet." I nodded. "Then go." She looked at me carefully. "You really don't care?" "I care enough to know I won't compete." She grabbed her coat. "I'm meeting him at 8. "Fine." She hesitated at the door. "If this goes badly, we can still talk." I shook my head. "No." Her expression hardened. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean you don't get to test another relationship and come back if it doesn't work." She stared at me for several seconds. Then she walked out. I waited until the door closed. Then I opened the final wedding document. At the top was a photograph of Judith and me. I removed it from the folder, tore it in half, and threw both pieces away. The wedding was gone. Now I needed to make sure the rest of our lives were separated just as cleanly. Judith came home just after midnight. I was still awake, sitting in the living room with the television off. She stopped when she saw me. "You waited up?" "No, I was finishing some paperwork." She took off her coat. "So, you're really doing this?" "Yes." She sat across from me. "Graham and I talked." I said nothing. "It wasn't what you think." "I don't know what happened." She looked annoyed. "That's the problem. You don't even want to know. I gave you the opportunity to tell me." She stared at the floor. "We talked about the past. Anything else?" "No." I waited. She finally looked up. "He asked if I was happy." "And what did you say?" I said yes. "Good." She frowned. "That's it? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know, Freddie." "Something." I canceled our wedding. There's nothing left to debate. Her voice became sharper. "You didn't even give me a chance." "I gave you a chance. You chose to use it on him." She stood. "You know what? Maybe I needed tonight to realize how much I actually love you." I looked at her. "Did you?" She hesitated. That hesitation answered the question better than anything else could have. Then she said something I hadn't expected. "Graham told me he still has feelings for me." I nodded slowly. "Okay? That's all you have to say?" "Yes. He said he regrets letting me go." I leaned forward. "Judith, I'm going to ask you one question. Did you tell him you were still engaged?" "Yes." "Did you tell him our wedding was next week?" "Yes." "And he still pursued you?" She looked away. "Yes." I stood. "Then you have your answer about him." She crossed her arms. "You don't know him." "I know enough." She grabbed her purse. "Maybe I should stay somewhere else tonight." "That would be better." She looked stunned. "You want me to leave?" "I think we both need space." She stared at me, then walked upstairs. 20 minutes later, she came down carrying an overnight bag. At the door, she stopped. "If I leave, don't expect me to come back tomorrow." I opened the door. "I'm not expecting you to." She looked at me for several seconds. Then she left. The next morning, I woke up to an email from the wedding venue. The cancellation was confirmed. Then another email arrived. It was from a hotel. Judith had apparently used our original honeymoon reservation for a weekend stay. With Graham. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I called the hotel. "Cancel the reservation," I said. "Of course, Mr. Freddie." I hung up. That was when I realized this wasn't about a canceled wedding anymore. Judith had made her choice. Now she was going to find out what that choice actually cost. By Monday morning, Judith had stopped calling. I didn't chase her. I went to work, handled my meetings, and spent my evenings getting my life separated from hers. That evening, I was clearing out the last of my files from the shared tablet when a notification appeared. It was a conversation between Judith and Graham. I opened it. The first conversation was from almost 3 weeks earlier. Graham had written that he was coming back to town. Judith had replied that she couldn't stop thinking about him. Then came another message. "I don't know if I'm making a mistake with Freddie." Graham answered, "You'll never know unless you see me." I read the messages twice. This wasn't some sudden reunion. Judith had been talking to him for weeks, and she had been planning to meet him long before she told me. I called her. She answered immediately. "Freddie?" I saw the messages. Silence. "Which messages?" "The ones you've been sending Graham." She exhaled. "How did you—" "That doesn't matter." "Freddie, listen to me." "No, you listen." My voice stayed calm. "You told me Graham had just contacted you." "That's a lie. I didn't want to hurt you. You were planning to meet him before you ever told me. It wasn't serious. You were questioning our marriage with him. I was confused. You were engaged to me." She started crying. "I never slept with him. I didn't ask." "Then what do you want?" "The truth." She was quiet. Finally, she said, "I wanted to know if I still had feelings for him. And now? I don't know." I leaned back in my chair. "That's exactly why the wedding is canceled." "Freddie, please." "No, I made a mistake." "You made several decisions." She began pleading. "Can we meet tonight?" "For what?" "To talk. We've talked. I need to see you. You saw me for the last time when you walked out that door." "You're really going to throw away everything?" I almost laughed. "You threw it away first." She went silent. Then she whispered, "Graham isn't what I thought." There it was, the part I had expected. "That isn't my problem, Judith. He doesn't want anything serious." I stood up. "Then you finally got your answer." "Freddie, I chose wrong." "No," I paused. "You chose what you wanted to know. Now you have the answer." I ended the call. Later that night, Judith showed up at my apartment. She stood outside the door, crying. I opened it, but didn't invite her inside. She looked at me. "I want you back." I shook my head. "You don't want me back." "What do you mean?" "You want the man who was waiting for you." She wiped her face. "I'm not waiting anymore." Then I closed the door. Judith didn't leave immediately. I could hear her standing outside the door for several seconds before her footsteps finally moved down the hallway. I didn't open the door again. The next couple of days were quiet. Then my mother called. "Freddie, what happened?" I sat at my desk. "The wedding is canceled." "I know that. Judith told me you ended everything because she wanted to see Graham." "That's part of it." "What aren't you telling me?" I explained what I had found. The messages, the weeks of contact, the fact that Judith had been questioning our marriage with Graham while planning it with me. My mother was silent for a moment. "Then you did the right thing." "I know." On Saturday, I drove to Judith's parents' house with the last of her belongings packed in my trunk. I wasn't there to argue. I was there to return her things and finish the separation. Her father opened the door. He looked embarrassed. "Come in." I carried the boxes inside. Judith was sitting in the living room. She stood immediately. "You didn't tell me you were coming." "I told your father." Her father looked at her. "Judith, give him the room." She shook her head. "No, I want to talk." I set the boxes on the floor. "Talk." She stepped toward me. "I ended things with Graham." I nodded. "Okay?" "I told him I wasn't interested." "Good." "I did it because I realized what I lost." I looked at her. "You didn't lose me when you met him." She frowned. "When did I lose you?" "When you decided I should wait while you figured out whether another man was better." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you would fight for me." I shook my head. "That's the difference between us." "What difference?" "You thought love meant I would compete for someone who already had one foot out the door." She looked down. "I was scared." "So was I." "Then why didn't you fight?" Because I'm not fighting to convince someone to marry me. Her father quietly left the room. Judith wiped her face. I made one mistake. No, she looked up. You made a series of choices. Meeting Graham was a choice. Talking to him was a choice. Keeping it secret was a choice. Leaving that night was a choice. She had no answer. I walked toward the door. Freddie, I stopped. Are you really done? I turned around. Yes. She nodded slowly. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Is there someone else? No. Then why can't you give me another chance? I looked at her. Because I don't need someone else to leave you. I walked out. For the first time since the wedding was canceled, I felt completely finished with it. 3 months passed. I moved into a smaller place closer to my office and stopped talking about the wedding altogether. The deposits were gone. The apartment was empty. The engagement ring had been returned. There was nothing left to divide. Then, one Friday evening, I got a call from Samuel. You're not going to believe who I ran into. Who? Judith. I sighed. What did she want? She asked about you. I didn't answer. Samuel continued. Apparently Graham left town again. I figured. She said she made the biggest mistake of her life. I looked out the window. That's unfortunate. She wants to see you. No. You didn't even think about it. I don't need to. Samuel laughed quietly. Still the same. I've had 3 months to think. Fair enough. The conversation ended there. I assumed that was the last I'd hear about Judith. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, she showed up outside my office. My assistant called me. There's a woman here asking for you. Who? Judith. I closed my eyes for a second. Send her up. Judith walked into my office wearing the coat I had bought her the previous winter. She looked tired. Hi. Judith? She sat down. I won't stay long. Good. She gave a weak smile. I deserve that. What do you want? She looked at her hands. I wanted to apologize. Okay. I was selfish. Yes. I thought Graham was the person I was supposed to be with. And now? He wasn't. I leaned back. Judith, you don't need to explain. I do. She looked directly at me. You were good to me. I took that for granted. Then someone from my past appeared, and instead of protecting what I had, I started wondering about what I lost. I nodded. That's honest. I miss you. I believe you. She looked surprised. Then why won't you take me back? Because missing someone isn't the same as being ready to build a life with them. She started crying. I would do anything. I stood. I don't want anything from you. She wiped her face. Is there someone else? This time I smiled. Not yet. She looked down. I walked her to the door. Before she left, she turned around. Do you ever regret canceling the wedding? I shook my head. Not for 1 second. She nodded. Then she walked away. I watched the elevator doors close. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt finished. And that was better. 6 months after I canceled the wedding, I was sitting at a restaurant with a woman named Claire. We had been dating for a few months. She knew about Judith, but I had never told her every detail. There was no reason to. Claire wasn't interested in my past. She was interested in what we were building. That night, we were planning a trip to Portugal. She looked at the screen on my phone. Are you sure you want to travel again? I smiled. Why wouldn't I? Because the last big trip you planned didn't exactly end well. I laughed. That's true. She waited for me to answer. I'm sure. She smiled. Good. Then book it. I did. The next morning, I received an email from the wedding venue. They were sending a refund from one of the deposits they had recovered. I stared at the amount for a moment. A year earlier, I would have looked at that money and thought about everything Judith and I had planned. Now, I just transferred it into my travel account. That was the final piece. Our wedding plans ended when Judith told me she needed to see whether another man still mattered to her. I had said one word. Okay. She thought that meant I was allowing her to go. She didn't understand that I was accepting the answer she had already given me. A week before our wedding, she chose uncertainty. I chose not to marry someone who was uncertain about me. A few weeks later, Samuel asked me whether I would ever speak to Judith again. I told him the truth. I don't hate her. Then what do you feel? Nothing. That was the part I had wanted from the beginning. Not revenge, not an apology, not watching her regret what she had done. Just nothing. Judith had once told me that she needed to meet Graham because she didn't want to enter our marriage with unanswered questions. I gave her exactly what she asked for. She got her answer. And so did I. I learned that love isn't about convincing someone to choose you. If a person needs to stand between you and someone from their past to decide who they want, you already have your answer. Judith wanted to know whether Graham was still an option. I didn't stop her from finding out. I simply refused to be the option she returned to when he wasn't. And 1 week before I was supposed to marry Judith, I canceled the wedding. It was the best decision I ever made. Thank you for watching.